Powered by Riverside FM.
Welcome to Do Good Work Podcast, hosted by Terrell Strayhorn and Jaquan Johnson. We specialize in taking a deep dive into issues that truly matter. Each episode unpacks the challenges and opportunities facing today's leaders, from classrooms to boardrooms, offering insights that inspire real change. By redefining success, we're changing lives, empowering people everywhere to create environments where everyone feels a sense of belonging, whether at home, work, or school. So hey, sit back, relax, grab your favorite beverage, and join us as we explore the issues shaping our futures, one meaningful conversation at a time. Let's go!
Pretty aggressively every single week. You know, it's funny. It reminds me of when we first hired that pro to do the song or the intro. You remember there was a particular sound that you wanted to the "Let's Go."
Yeah.
So yeah. I mean, did he nail it?
No. And I'm pretty sure if people were behind the scenes with us, you would know why. But listen, he did his very best. I applaud him for trying. And you know, he recorded it maybe like 2 or 3 times for us.
He did. Yeah.
So
partly because he kept,
and that's the most important thing, right? He got my name wrong. It was horrible, and we did everything in our power to help him. But I think by saying Jaquin and not Jaqueen, Jaween, Haquan, I'll let Let's Go be.
Let's go. Okay, so let's go. I mean, welcome back to another episode of Do Good Work Podcast. I'm your co-host, T. Rizzy, Terrell on the mic, joined in the studio again. By the way, this is take 2. Take two was so shaky, we had to do this over because I would never be able to get to sleep knowing that my technologist didn't want me to be great tonight. But I'm joined in the studio, and by the way, again, virtually. We're virtual. That's why our walls look different. By our co-host,
Jaquan Johnson. Your wall looks better than mine, but also known as J Squared.
Yeah, we're using this. I don't know if we're going to keep using this. I can't talk about it for too long, but we're using a technology that has these little virtual backgrounds, but apparently it like eats up all of your bandwidth. So you will not be able to have an episode because your computer will be breathing so hard. Anyway, I think our backgrounds look great. I think I'm embracing the natural backgrounds. I like virtual backgrounds, especially those that work really well and they don't exhaust your system. But otherwise, I mean, you all should know that, you know, we're in these places and spaces, but we came together because we went to meet you for tonight's episode. We got a good episode for you, good conversation, even discussion, especially since the universe has given us the opportunity to do it twice. So to kick us off, you typically do this, Jay. What would you like us to do?
Yeah, so like, you know how we always start off using the first letter of your last name, Strayhorn, S, Johnson, J. Describe your week or day in one word.
What did I say before? Wait.
Oh man, I forgot actually. No, Suspense.
Suspenseful.
There you go.
This has been a suspenseful week. Let me think. Why? Well, let me just say this. Okay, you can appreciate this because you know it's absolutely true. I need you to definitely not double dribble. When I give this to you, I need you to just like run this ball all across the court.
Okay.
So I do not enjoy being around people who are sick unless I have to be. Like if you are family or extended family because you work for Do Good Work, listen, I try to stay away from the cooties. I wear my mask. I use hand sanitizer. If you sneeze too many times around me, I'm going to move. And so I'm saying that because this is now Saturday. So I started the week. Sunday I had to travel and had really good visits. But at some point, I connected with a friend who will go unnamed, who coughed more than once. And I remember saying, like, I'm worried. Are you sick? And they said, no, I'm not sick. Now, mind you, they forget that they have social media. And on social media, they announced to the world they thought they had the flu. So I knew that, I'm dealing with a liar. And so I was around them and I said, like, listen, if you're sick, we can reschedule. I'm happy to do lunch, whatever, brunch, anytime, but just like, don't be sick and be around me, because if I get sick, that means I can't travel. If I can't travel, that means I've got canceled contracts, canceled events. If I can't do that, I mean, I can't eat, bills don't get paid, stuff doesn't get done. It's just too important. And hopefully somebody in our listening audience can sort of go with me on that. If you can, put it in the chat. I'm with you on that. I got your back. Say no to cooties, something like that. Okay. So the very next day, I woke up.
Throat itching. I knew it.
Eyes itchy. I'm like, wait 1 second, Satan. So I took some preventative medicine, but I was up, I was moving, I was getting work done, I was feeling good. I knew I had to fly out later that day. By the time of that flight, boy, I was sitting in the sofa. My shirt was soaked because that means I had a fever, and I broke the fever. I went to the plane. I'm saying this, I traveled not feeling well, but because I took the preventative medicines, it was about a 24-hour thing. I got to Salt Lake City and went to my hotel. The next morning when I woke up, before I went to Weber State, I was feeling better. So that was suspenseful, right? Like, by the way, I flew twice this week. Getting on the plane, especially with all the news about planes, I'm looking, like, making sure I don't smell no fire, making sure the wings are still on the plane, checking to make sure that's a pilot at the front. You just have to check everything, because it's that time right now with air travel, unfortunately. So that's suspenseful. The takeoff, the landing, when you're midair. I'm gonna be honest, I had some turbulence in the air this week. So, when you normally I can do a little bounce. I don't mind a little bounce.
Hey, bounce, just bounce with it.
But them bounces now, I'd be like, sit up.
That's the
wait
truth.
A minute.
Boy.
All of that is just suspenseful. That's my word for the week. About yourself. What do you guys say about to my suspenseful?
Two things. One is I fly out Monday. Now, you already know. I already shared with you. I'm terrified. So put my hood over my head and hopefully close my eyes and go to sleep.
Yeah.
But I appreciate your story. Listen, y'all. If I sniffle too many times, he'll give me the dirtiest look and be like, "Not around me." So we're gonna go to the store and buy you some orange. What's the medicine I usually get?
Well, first of all, medicine. What medicine do you normally get? Airborne is what you should.
I said that we get.
What I'm trying to think, because listen, y'all,
it's orange juice, and then
oh. Look,
look at me like I'm crazy, like we don't have these experiences.
I needed you to help me there. That's why we do this together. But listen, y'all, this is gonna be one of our first endorsements. We need after I give you the answer, I need this company to consider Do Good Work as an endorsement. We'll do a little short ad for you. It's Alka-Seltzer.
Oh, yes, that's it. Yeah,
Alka-Seltzer Plus. Listen, y'all, if you're not feeling well, take you some Alka-Seltzer Plus. Don't get the pill that you just swallow. No, get the little fizzle tablet that you got to put in some water, and you put orange juice on top of that bad boy. Now, you can't just pour it real strong because orange juice is citric, so it'll make it explode. But put a little bit up there and just keep on. Tell them, Jaquin, it'll work.
It works. I am a witness to that.
What's that gospel song? The blood still works. Alka-Seltzer still works.
You better stop cutting up. Stop cutting up. Moving on. No, I appreciate your story. For me, Jay Johnson, it'll be Jolted. That's today. That's not this week. That's today. Preparing for this podcast, we did some reading together. And there's clearly attacks on DEI. There's an ongoing fight for belonging. People are, you can't talk about belonging without talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion. And honestly, I'm truly jolted by our 47th president, just the sheer audacity of the policies erasing, progress in our country. But, when I was looking up this word before we started, jolted means shocked. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not shocked by what he's doing, by no means necessary. But I am waking up. I am pushing forward, and I am refusing to be silent on issues that are very important to me, important to Do Good Work's mission, and the thing that I wake up every day to fight for.
Yeah. Well, that's a good word, jolted. How do you spell it?
JOLTED.
Jolted. All right, y'all. There you go. Use it this week in a sentence, and then tell us how you did it.
And
so let's
cite me.
Cite Merriam-Webster dictionary. So I see we're gonna have a good time tonight. No, but I was thinking too. We should also shout out. Since I don't know why, I'm just thinking about my mom's a public health nurse, and she said it's that time of year where people are getting sick because of allergy, sinus. The other thing that we have found to be very good, you'll recall this, is, and I learned the other day from another friend of mine, actually a frat brother of mine. Some people don't know that this is a thing. Medicine balls.
Oh, that is so good. I got my first one in New York, right?
Yeah. Listen, y'all, he showed up in that airport.
Oh, and again, here you go. Sneezing, coughing. That boy gave me the dirty. Let me show y'all what it looks like. I can't do it.
I was like, oh my Lord, you must have the bubonic plague. He was struggling. And we went to Starbucks right there in the airport. And I had never had one. I had heard of them. And it's good, right? You said it tastes good.
It's amazing. Yes.
And it works
awesome.
because, it clears you up. So Starbucks, we're happy to do a little advertisement for you in the show.
Actually, I don't know if we're doing Starbucks, friend, right now.
Oh Lord, we got to go back and look at that.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Okay, hold off, Starbucks. We'll have our people will call your people after we go and vet this list. And now, while you said it, Alka-Seltzer, hold off. We'll reach out after we do some vetting, because this is what we're talking about tonight.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about two things. Really, we're talking about the update sort of on the anti-DEI, because this is what's happened. There's a lot happening in the world. We co-host a podcast, and I think we talked about this in the first take. I want to talk about it for a second in the second take. We're not real sure that we have the right rhythm, the right vibe, the right feel. Like sometimes it feels like we're teaching the world through the podcast, and that's cool. There are things we got to share, but then we often want to have a conversation with each other and invite the world to be a part of that conversation. And so what we said we were going to do tonight, although Jaquin is not modeling good behavior because he is paying attention to something else other than me right now, is we said we were going to pay attention to each other. We were going to zoom in and focus on having a conversation and just talking to each other about these issues. And it's almost like the world is sort of privy to that conversation. There will be moments where we turn to the world and speak because, one, hopefully this is not a surprise to you, any podcast host practice. And so we've talked through some of the things we want to talk through tonight. And so it'll be redundant for us to look at each other and say it. But we also want to make sure that the American public and our viewership and our listening audience is aware of all that's happening in the world. So now that I've called you out, go ahead, get me together.
And no, I'm not going to. But with that being said, I'm over here looking at Twitter as well. We got 23. So the ones that are with us on LinkedIn and Facebook, YouTube, please like, share, retweet, phone a friend, let them know that we're live. Take two. Again. You didn't miss the first. Well, we all missed it probably. But we're here, ready to talk about something that's very exciting. And you already shared that, DEI is under attack. It's been under attack. Oh my Lord. And I think that it's a ideological debate. 1 second. Let's see, this is just reality TV. Be offense all TV. Over. And again, you said earlier today that we want to be very intentional and stop saying DEI and focus more on saying it in its totality, which is diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. Is the attacks are a deliberate attempt to roll back decades of progress, as I said earlier, in education, in business, and society. And the opponent that is against DEI is framing it as divisive or unnecessary, which, in my personal opinion, it ignores its true progress or purpose. And the purpose of diversity, equity, and inclusion is leveling the playing field. in spaces that were never, and I mean never, designed for everyone's success.
Yeah.
So it has, I had the word earlier, it has found its way. That's not the word I was going to use. It was so much cooler when I was thinking about it in my head. But it's found its way in higher education. It has implications for how we operate in our decisions and how we serve our students. And, prior to the show, preparing for it, we did some reading on living learning communities, also known as LLCs. And these are specialized residential programs that integrate students' academic and social experiences that focus on shared identities or interest. Okay, so these are students in culture-based housing that, these are, Black students, these are, Latinx, Native American students that are, no longer being offered housing next fall based on their identity. Now, there are some institutions that are also refusing housing for first generation students. What is going on in America? Refusing housing for out of state students, right? That can come on campus and live together, have community with people who have the same interest and same identity. On the other hand, there are also institutions out there who are keeping or retaining other learning communities, such as academic majors and other interests. My question is this, and I said it earlier. This is my last point. I will shut up and toss it over to you. Is we are attacking or eliminating these designated spaces for these minority groups, and that's what it is. But I haven't read, I haven't heard anything about young Republicans. And there are some institutions out there who have housing just for them.
Yeah.
So this is a clear message. I'm not going to take everything you said earlier, but this is a clear message to those students that we're not going to create these conditions for you to thrive. What are your thoughts?
I mean, one, you're exactly spot on. Living, learning. So listen, if you haven't already, like and share. Also, go to our social media. If I can figure it out without shutting down my entire system, I'll drop all of our social media into the chat across the platforms. But we've got a presence on every social media platform. The reason why I say that is because we shared a story this week from, is it Inside Higher Ed or the Chronicle? Inside Higher Ed did a story about the fact that in the middle of all that's happening in the world, and there's a lot happening in the world, some colleges and universities are shutting down living learning communities. Living learning communities. LLCs. So colleges are interpreting some of these federal and presidential actions as mandates to end certain programs and services, one of which is creating sanctioned space. Y'all ready for this? This is devastating, illegal, unlawful kinds of stuff, right? Designated space for students to live and learn. When did that become unlawful? You know what I'm saying? Like, if we just pull back the layer and just look at what it is. I mean, we both worked at campuses and we work at campuses. We engage with campuses. I literally remember, to call out one of my former institutions at Illinois State University, there was a residence hall, right? Big, tall building for everybody. There was a floor that was at the time designated for the LGBTQ community or floor. Now, How did you get access to that floor? How do you get access to an American Express? You apply. So you, as a student, you would apply for access to that floor. What were the criteria for being selected to be on this floor? You could be a member of the family, of the community. You could be, be interested in learning more and creating co-creating community with the LGBT community. You could be an ally of the LGBTQ community, right? So here's what, let me go the other direction because I'm losing you. What you could not be. Let me tell you what you could not be. Let me tell you what it wasn't about. It was not about shutting people out. It was about bringing people in. That's all it was. And guess what? There was no trap door to that floor, such that you couldn't get to that floor from other floors in the building. It wasn't like if you live on that floor, you can't go to other floors or other people can't. No, it was always inclusive and collaborative, and many LLCs are that way. As you mentioned, some of them are themed towards certain social identities, race, sexual orientation, political orientation, cultural backgrounds and identities. Some of them are more themed according to majors. So there are lots of STEM living learning communities. There are living learning communities that are designed for people who are majoring in health and helping professions, people who are interested in them, people who aspire to work. I mean, just a whole group of people. I'm saying this to say the banning of these LLCs is based on a very false dichotomy. The rhetoric is designed for us to imagine a place where, like back in the 50s and 60s, it was whites only, blacks only, tall people only, rich kids only, that kind of thing. That's not how these living learning communities operate. Largely because we live in a democracy and we live in a global society where it turns out even if you have a living learning community or a floor or space designated for black students have white friends and non-black friends and non-black co-workers and non-black members of clubs and organizations. And I have worked at places that I think every single institution I've worked at has had a Black cultural center. Now, I will say, this is another very public, and you can go on any website and see The Ohio State University recently made a decision to close its DEI office and its multicultural center. The Hale Cultural Center has for a long time been a beacon of refuge for students at The Ohio State University. Absolutely, positively, it helped Black students. I'm trying to tell you, there's 60,000, actually 65,000, I think, students at The Ohio State University. And that's, Black students represent a very small proportion. And so when you're on a place that big, you are looking for a place where you can go and let your hair down and be around people who might be like-minded, may even be same race or similar in race, where you can go and see signs on the wall and pictures on the wall to the first Black professors and see Black excellence on display. But I can tell you this as a person who went to the cultural centers at all of my campuses. I've seen white people there. I've seen non-Black folks there. I've seen white faculty hold classes in the Black Cultural Center. So these spaces were at all times shared, part of the community, open to the campus. I just don't want people to get it twisted that somehow these spaces were separatist or divisive and therefore they should be eradicated. I think everybody knows that that's not the case. Unfortunately, the quick and aggressive adoption of these executive orders is leading to that kind of behavior. What do you think?
Yeah, but that's the story they're going to continue to sell and push, right? Because it aligns with their agenda. And there are people out there who are, whether they listen to a podcast, they listen to the 47th president on screen, read his tweets, moment of silence, or listen to an influencer talking about these important issues and sharing that they are divisive or they are segregating students, including some and excluding others, right? They feed this information to us, and then some of us out there, we do our own research and read about what these sanctioned spaces are, what they do. Others consume the information and believe that it's accurate and unlawful. But I think that what you said is very true. These spaces have always welcomed other students, right? They have always been a space where students can gather and socialize and get to know each other, engage with one another. And we know through research that living learning communities are best practices and they are high impact practices. But I believe right now we are living in a political society that says, damn the research. You said earlier that at a particular school, they had you said Black Cultural Center?
Yeah.
And the results showed that it, maybe increased engagement. Students were receiving better grades. They were retained at a larger rate. But I think that we are shifting away from what research is telling us and going more into common sense, which I'll let you take that. I'm gonna park it there for you to pick it up. But going to LGBTQ, friendly housing, I think it's very important that we think about this because we have these students on our campus, and those LGBTQ friendly housing is an attempt to pair students with someone who would be accepting and welcoming of an LGBTQ roommate.
Yeah.
These students are in residential halls for majority of their time is in the residential hall, and these spaces need to be comfortable for them. If you look at the model, the very first band, the basic need is sleep. Well, how can one sleep if they don't feel safe, if they don't feel comfortable, if they don't feel accepted for who they are, what they are? So it's problematic to suspend or completely remove these intentional spaces where students can find community, where they can find mentorship, where they can have peer support, cultural affirmation. We talked about that in a webinar maybe a couple weeks ago, is that be affirmed of who you are, which is essential, especially if you're at a predominantly white institution.
I mean, you're talking good because you think about it, like, I just find, again, sometimes this week I was at the campuses I went to, I would offer people examples, and I was like, sometimes I feel like I give too many examples. And one woman woke up, she said, I really don't think you can do that. I think what your examples do is they help kind of like make something that can be either complex or convoluted actually quite practical. So let's just think about it this way, right? Isn't it interesting that we've got an administration that is issuing all of these federal actions and executive orders, eliminating and prohibiting our words, right? Sanctioned space for people to come together in community with one another because of shared identities, shared experiences, shared mindsets, shared heart sets, as Dr. Lucas would say, right? That somehow that's now undemocratic, unethical, and even unlawful. Okay, flip the page for a moment. I got so many examples that are coming to my mind, but I'm just going to keep it close to the bone here, right? I don't want to call out people who I know have experienced this because there's a very particularly famous person right now who's experienced. But, when people have drinking problems, Come on, you and I love Amy Winehouse. God rest her soul.
Yes, I do.
And
Yes, we
she was
do.
made famous off of a song, Try to Make
Rehab.
Me Go to Rehab.
Mhm.
Listen, when people have drinking problems, they go to rehab. Everybody in rehab is sitting there. Guess why?
Oh, I see where you're going with
Because
this.
they got
Come on.
shared experiences.
Come
They got
on.
shared perspectives. They got shared challenges. Ain't nobody making that unlawful, and nor should they. Nor should they. Now, if I got to bring it back home, because I know my mama is either watching or she going to watch. Okay, so I just lost my dad about a month ago, actually a month and a day ago. My mom, when we were trying to put together his final arrangement, said to me, she said, the person at the funeral home said, hey, we have widows support groups coming up. And she was like, they're, I don't know, Wednesdays at 1 or something. And my mom turned to me, she was like, I want to go to that. She was like, because I love support groups. So you're telling me that widows and widowers can come together, huddle around in, private rooms, designated spaces, talk with one another, listen to counselors or whatever's going to happen. Why? Because of a shared identity, widow or widower, that this shared experience, that's the same philosophy that undergirds living and learning communities. It's the same philosophy that undergirds cultural centers for Black students, for Asian students, for Native American students, for LGBTQIA2S plus students. Sure, I'm sure if I wanted to go with my mom to the widow support group, I could as her son. Though I don't share that identity, I share some perspective I'm an ally of the group. The same way that white students have forever been a part of the Black Greek letter organization Step Show. And I think what I get excited about, other than the fact that I can look at your face and tell we about to have a good conversation, it's political theater, people. This is political theater. This is designed to make you not like me and me not like you. It's designed for us to be so divided on these false dichotomies, right, of Black versus white, rich versus poor, in versus out, educated versus non-educated, red versus blue. The world we live in doesn't work like that anymore. We are all a mix and a shade of everything. Yeah, anyway.
Man, you done?
I'm done. I'm done.
That's such a good one. That's such a good rehab. Wow, that is a really good example, because you go off, you wake up, you go to class, you do what you need to do in the day, and you come back to where you live and rest your head, and you're with the group that you're able to debrief with your floor mates. You have game night, you share all these experiences, you get to talk with them without fear of judgment. You get to be in community with people who want the best for you, who understands your struggles on that college campus, who understands how you were treated in the classroom, who can tell you, I know you need to take this class because it's part of your major, but you may not want to take it this semester because the only person that's teaching it is so-and-so. And I'm gonna tell you, based on my experiences, my big brother, my big sister told me not to take that class, but I didn't listen to them. And I was just like the rest of them. But I don't want you to be me. It's rehab for them.
Yeah.
It is. It truly is rehab. It's, this is a group of people who can teach you how to play spades or do the electric side. Don't take my card. I don't know how to do it. Right. But I can be with a group where it's, culturally affirming to know that I can come back to a place where I am truly accepted for who I am.
I see what you're going with. It's like, you think about it. So I was thinking the support group example, right? Many of these spaces that are being outlawed are support spaces and support groups for our students, but they also can be sites for rehabilitation. It's like, you think about the student who, I met a student this week who, wow, Okay, you get an apple today. Okay, so I'll just say his name. His name is Kyle, and he said I could share the story as many times as I want. So Kyle says to me, he came to college with two interests that were at war with each other. I said, at war? He said, yeah. He said, I have a love for rock and roll, and these are Kyle's interests, right? And I have a love for Jesus. And he said, my Jesus friends don't like rock and roll. They think it's satanic. And my rock and roll friends don't spend a whole lot of time in church. So Kyle, a college student, is important for the conversation. Understand, Kyle identifies as a tall white male, right? And he's at the school and he's looking for community. He's looking for connectedness. He's looking for his village. He's looking for just somebody who can embrace him. Listen, embrace the whole him. He said when he was with his Jesus friends, he had to downplay his interest in rock and roll. He couldn't even talk about it. He had to conceal it. When he's with his rock and roll friends, he's got to act outside of himself, and he can't let on that he actually has a faith system because it's so contrary to the general sway in that group. Kyle said, and I quote, until he went to the organization fair at his campus, and there he met a group called InterVarsity. He goes to the InterVarsity meeting, and I'd be long John if on the first meeting he said he met another guy who liked Jesus and rock and roll. At this sort of third space that's in between the two, right? He had been stretched across the two. He found a space called InterVarsity. It is a sanctioned space, not for everyone. It's for people who have a certain faith belief, a certain Christian faith belief. It is designated space. It can be a support group, but there he found his village. And he was like, I found this guy who liked rock and roll and Jesus. And he told me about these other students, but before you know it, his friendship group now multiplied. He's got girls and guys and Christians and non-Christian who love the mix of it all. So I'm simply saying, you're exactly right. These spaces are so many things to students. The one thing they're not unlawful. They're not harmful. They're not divisive. They actually are fostering the kind of connections. And here's the other thing that we know as educators. If you want to, I'm taking us down the lane of our leadership coaching now. If you want to develop trust in someone, you don't do it by staying away from them. You do it by getting closer to them. You do it by learning more about them. And the theory on trust says this: you got to learn something about their intentions, you have to learn something about their commitments, and you have to learn something about their behaviors. That's what living learning communities do. They bring students from all different walks of life, different zip codes, area codes, different political perspectives, different cultural backgrounds, probably even people across the aisle. And it puts you together in a residence hall or in a suite. And actually, though you and I might not racially be the same, or we might not be the same in terms of our gender, we realize through this living together, wow, we do have some things in common. I don't think about the world exactly as you do, but I do like the way you think. And you know what? I got something to bring to the table too. Out of it comes community, connectedness, trust, all of the principles of democracy. Now, all you got to do is check the research on this. We cited out or tweeted out, shared out some this week, but I'm going to call out Karen Inkelis. She's a professor at the University of Virginia. She's the foremost authority in my book on living learning communities. Her research is clear. They produce positive educational outcomes. I feel like a politician when I do that. Bernie Sanders.
As long as you're not doing this.
I'm just simply trying to say they work. They're not unlawful. Why are we doing this? And the unfortunate thing about it is, and I know you're going to take it, so I'm get ready. I'm ready to volley the ball over to you. When we cut living learning communities, I'm just going to predict the future now. We're cutting student success. When you cut out living learning communities and the supports that students need to be successful, you cut out student success. So we cannot scratch our head and be confused in a month, 6 months, a year or two when our retention rates are changing, when our persistence rates are changing, when students are not enrolling, or even after enrolling, they're dropping out. Because here's the thing, when, belonging, what do we say, doesn't happen automatically. You got to create it. You got to facilitate it. You got to nurture it. You got to create the conditions that send the message you belong. When you build a cultural center, you're sending a message to some students. You belong here. When you build an LGBT resource center out of resources that you invest in the campus, you're telling some students you belong here. When you create a clothing closet, you're telling your food and clothing insecure students, you do belong here. We've got your back. When you create a food pantry, especially those that are institutionally funding, you're telling the food insecure students, you belong here. We've got your back, and we are committed to your success. But when you cut those programs, what you're telling students is, you may as well just be cutting you. And the problem is this: students hear those messages, and then they're left to make decisions about it.
Right on. You said it. Belonging takes work. Hard work takes planning, preparing, being close to the students to figure out what are their needs, what do they need, what do they want, how can we best serve them, like where are the gaps that we can help you fill. And then part of that may be like, I don't feel like I have any friends. I heard this time and time again when I was an enrollment counselor. It wasn't about, at times, what's the dimensions of the bedroom, right? But the question that always came up was, how do I find my people on this campus? Mm. I'm coming from California and I'm in Florida, going to school in Florida. I'm the only one from, my neighborhood coming here. So I have to find new friends. How do I do that? And I think by removing these living learning communities, it's more than a policy shift. I think it's excluding marginalized people, pushing them further to the margin, rather than creating these conditions in these spaces for them to find their community, to find their people, to be in spaces and environments where they can be themselves and not conceal certain parts of their identity. Because we know through research, when we have these critical support systems, it promotes engagement, it promotes retention, it promotes success. And then when we cut somebody, we are, cutting also access, opportunity, and belonging. And then we got the nerve to send some messages out saying that we have an unwavering commitment to your success. That's a lie.
Yeah.
How can you have a commitment to student success when you are removing the thing that makes them successful?
Yeah. I mean, it's political theater, smoke and mirrors, with a purpose. I mean, it's not like just something out there just happening. It's not like watching a musical on Broadway, which can be very beautiful and very breathtaking. It's designed to serve, unfortunately, in this case, I believe, a political agenda. And it's a political agenda that is aiming to pit people against people, community against community, race against race, and I don't think the campuses that are responding to this are necessarily all the time, playing into that. I think what they're worried about is, these executive orders and these federal actions do threaten consequences. It's saying like, it's directing federal agencies to withhold funds from any school, district, college, university, contractor who does these unlawful things. Now, it doesn't spell out what's lawful and unlawful, which is what causes people to be so nervous. It's like, oh my goodness, if my program, or in this case, my living learning community, or my cultural center, or this is happening too, my grant or scholarship or my laboratory is seen to be in violation or not compliant with the executive order, well, then I'm going to lose federal funding. If I lose federal funding, it wipes me off. It wipes me off the map. Well, so to sort of get ahead of that, you find this aggressive implementation, quick adoption of these things, and just very rapid fire kind of decisions that we think are headed in the wrong direction. Right now, there is not a single executive order, we'll wait, that says get rid of living learning communities. It's not out there. There's nothing that's been written that says get rid of Black cultural centers. We'll wait. Drop it in the chat. Right, didn't think so.
Crickets.
It's like it's the interpretation. And this is the other part of the smoke and mirrors. People always say, well, I don't really want to talk about this. I think we should just let the judges and the courts, decide what's legal or not legal, because I don't think, your opinion or my opinion shouldn't really sway things. Listen, this is so funny. And anyone who's watching the lives, use the chat to show us that you're knowledgeable too. A judge's voice on a legal case, the published voice of a judge, is called a what? It's called an opinion. Opinions do matter, friends. Like, we got to stop acting like we're not. Every single person involved in the situation is a human. I'm a human. You're a human. The judge is a human. The president's a human. The cabinet's a human. The federal agencies, these are all people. So and we're all fallible. Like, we all can lean a little bit to the left or the right, be more centered. We can make mistakes. And so this is just wrong-headed, period. Their students need support, all students. And, for anybody who's really wrapped in a knot because you're thinking that there are all this, what is it called, wasteful spending going on at these colleges and universities, and that some students are being provided supports that other students are being denied. And particularly on the front of what we're talking about tonight, if you can find the campus that's doing it, we open up our email. Please let us know, because actually, as I said in the take one of this episode, I am also against unlawful discrimination. I am wholly and totally against illegal and unlawful spending. I stand with them, but I know that we're not talking about the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
There's another executive order coming out of that administration that says it is against the trafficking of children. Amen, brother. I'm with you on that. But when you read down in that executive order, it goes on to say, therefore, we stand against the mutilation of children. What you're talking about there is about operations to help trans youth through their transition. Nah, see, it's like twisted. Come on. It's like smoke and mirrors, playing games, semantic rhetoric. What did that person say? It's like verbal origami. We're just playing games with the little pieces here, and it just comes out very different by the time you get to the end. I'm just simply trying to say this. All students need support. I'm totally comfortable admitting that the support you need, Jaquin, may not be the support I need. Mm-hmm. You clearly need a little quick tutorial on how to use spreadsheets.
I do. Not a quick tutorial. I need a day-long training on how to use it.
But listen, and you know what I need?
I'm gonna put that's going on the list. That's 3 now.
I need a tutorial right now today on, my goodness, I'm having a lot of trouble managing social media across platforms. While I think I know how to basically use spreadsheets, I know virtually nothing about I'm still learning about the formula setting in spreadsheets. We just had a project that we wrapped up this week, and I learned some things about how to use it to do an average. I normally use statistical software, but Excel and these kind of things. I'm being serious with people. What I'm saying is this: Jaquin's got stuff he needs to learn and he needs support for it. I got stuff I need to learn. I need support for it. They do not have to be the same. And I shouldn't be walking around with a chip on my shoulder because Jaquin gets access to a Coursera training that I don't need. Like if I need it, I could probably get it too.
Yeah.
The same is true for the things we're talking about, but we're being misled to believe that someone's advance is at our expense, that it's a zero-sum game. And I get it. Like, that is frustrating. That does make your heart race because you feel like you're going out of your way to keep up with people, but everybody's not your competition. I guess that's what I would say. No,
I mean, it's so true. It's like, the research we do about students with disabilities. So many people get wrapped up and frustrated with, some of those students receiving additional time on testing. Why? Well, I didn't get it. That's unfair. That's not unfair. It's leveling the playing field.
Come on.
Everyone doesn't start at the same starting line. Everyone doesn't have the same starting blocks. Everyone doesn't have the same spikes. Everyone doesn't have the same spandex. Everyone doesn't have the same training. God
bless America.
There you go.
Yeah.
And, it's talking about like the executive orders is, how do I say this? They're strategic about what they're doing, because they're going to, how you say this, hit them where it hurts. And they know that institutions need funding to keep those doors open. Some more than others. Some have, backing from donors. Others don't have that type of support.
Or huge endowments.
So what we're going to do is, if you do not comply, then we're going to take that funding from you. So there are some schools out there, they read these executive orders. They may not have the team or the attorneys to really dissect what is being shared with them and go line by line, right in the margins, and then meet with the team to share or inform them about what's in these documents and how to move forward. Some institutions are, pressured to read what they can read and put forth, an explanation of, why they have these things on campus and how it's supporting students and how it's not divisive or segregating one group from another. But we also know that these executive orders are putting even more pressure on them because they're not giving them the sufficient time to get through the documents, process what is being shared, speak with their team, get input from a diverse group of people, and then put a plan together or an explanation of what's going on.
Yeah, it's a good point. I serve on a board for a nonprofit, real quick, who's already sort of come under fire because of perceived or the perception that some of the programming and services they provide are not compliant with the current administration. So we, one of those letters was issued. We huddled as a board to think about how do we respond. And I was really proud because one, I got to have input into this letter, but I was also working with a group of people who, rather than say, oh my gosh, we're going to scrub our website and we're going to stop doing all this stuff, we used our response as an opportunity to say, so the executive order says, we prohibit unlawful programs and policies. Our response was, we agree, and here's what we're doing and why we know it is lawful. And I think there's space for colleges, universities, schools, districts, private sector, businesses to do the same, and especially if you have access to legal advisors and attorneys to help you do this, but, to marshal the evidence to demonstrate that what you're doing not only makes a difference, but is lawful. It is not exclusionary. It is not exclusive. It does not discriminate, but it is, fair. It is just, and it is necessary. And I think that's the advice. I'm glad we did the take two, because I feel like we're going to a different place with this conversation. And I want to hear what you have to say, but I also want to think, I was thinking about what's on my screen, do good work. And like, what advice do we have? And what should we be saying to each other? What can we come up with that, like, yeah, there are new pressures upon us. You said it earlier. We knew the enrollment cliff was coming. We just didn't know that we were going to be living with enrollment cliff and executive orders and federal actions and proclamations and a very activist administration. I think that's fair. So we've got all these compounding headwinds, right, shaping the world, but certainly the work of education and even more specifically higher education. But I believe our commitment and our advice is still the same. Y'all, we got to do good work. So how do you do good work in the midst of this March Madness and beyond? And what advice do we have for, folks who are trying to do that?
Well, I think the first thing we have to do is we have to stay committed to supporting students, regardless of their background, their socioeconomic status, their sexual orientation. Did I say sexual? Social? Okay, I thought I said sexual. Anyway, sexual orientation, religion. We have to stay committed to supporting all students. That's first and foremost.
Yeah.
Second is, I think we read these executive orders, find the true meaning
pause for a second. Can we go back? Because we got to say it.
Back it up.
Yeah. I mean, we also have to stay committed, right? So I think people can nod to much of what you've said so far, but let's take them further. We have to also stay committed to our students who can afford to come to college and pay, and committed to our students who can't afford it and are on Pell and other grants. We have to stay committed to our students who are who come to college ready, all the perfect an admission counselor's dream of a transcript, and also the students who come with some gaps and some checkers in their academic history. We have to stay committed to students who come fully able and fully ready, as well as our students who are living with disabilities and neurodivergent, somebody. Like, we got to commit to all of the students. And that first group, I remember when, a couple of those were kind of shaky, but people can get on board with that. But then you start finding people feeling like, well, now if you have mental health challenges, or if you're living with a learning disability, I don't know, maybe you're not college material. No, but if you are in college and you are college material, can we as a society be comfortable with that student getting the accommodations that they rightfully deserve, whether that is notes from the professor in advance, the opportunity and the ability to record all classes and lectures, extended time on assignments and exams, assistive devices and readers in the classroom, dare I even say an interpreter or someone, an aide in the classroom with them. Can we shake our head just as ferociously in support of that? Because that's what student-centered really means, don't you think?
100%. I mean, again, regardless of how you come to us, we are committed to your success, not only academically, but also socially, spiritually, and the list goes on. But I firmly believe if we're not committed to that type of work, then we're not going to ever try to accomplish or meet those types of students' needs.
Yeah.
So before I was not rudely
nicely interrupted.
Yes. This was my point, and I hope I didn't lose it, was go through these executive orders. There are maybe times we have to pivot and change the language that we use. But I also believe that, even if we remove DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, please be very clear with your colleagues and employees, staff, faculty and staff on the campus, and students, that you are still committed to that type of work. Now, it may not say the cultural center. It may say your center. But the work that we're doing to affirm who you are, to validate your experience, to provide you the support that you need, to accept you, to create respectful environments, that's not going to go away. Just the name changed.
Yeah, I mean, commit to the work. Stay committed to the students, of course, but stay committed to the work. Do good work. It's good work. I said this in the take one. I think we certainly have seen how it gets demonized and decimated and polarized, and you started this episode off with it, right? I have been saying mostly to my friends in my network and nucleus, like, when we're talking, if we're going to talk about it, let's talk about it. So if you're going to say DEI, say diversity, equity, inclusion. Here's why. And you and I have talked about this on a very personal level. I'll even go there personally for me, because we did it. We're there. This is the one that we can post.
Okay.
Y'all like and share. Get some more people in here. But listen. I like to write. I love to write, actually. I love to write. I love to work. The work that I do feels like work. Yes, Dr. Lucas, it does feel like work. Okay. So it's a job. But by the same token, I got to be honest, there are moments where I'm so into it and I'm so committed to it and I'm so passionate about it that if it wasn't for you and friends like you who say, bro, we got to go get some pizza. You can keep going. I can't keep going like that. That I have to come up for air, because I'll fall into it. But by the same token, naturally, I will pull up for air. I'll go get coffee. I'll go for a walk. I'm saying that because earlier in my career, I was so excited doing the work that I gave short shrift to the worker. That I was so busy producing the product, the publications, the keynotes, the courses, the advising, that I gave less time to the producer, myself. And I heard the comments of, oh, he's a beast. I'm not a beast. I'm an animal. I'm a human, right? Oh, he's a beast. No. That's dehumanizing when we do that. Oh my gosh, he's a machine. He's running a machine. No, I'm a human. And my research team was not a machine. It was a team of humans coming together to do work. I'm just saying it. It's a little, if we're not careful, we have a lot of ways that we dehumanize each other. And the moment something becomes dehumanized, I think it's easy to attack because you don't feel you have a heart. Most people have a heart, unless you don't. You're a sociopath if you don't, by the way. That's not attacking
by the
anyone.
way. Jeez.
I'm just saying psychology says if you do not have the heart to experience empathy, and that's only sociopaths do that, right? But I think these political theaters, these smoke and mirrors, these political agendas are designed to dehumanize some groups, to desensitize us from our concern for our fellow brothers and sisters in a way that if I can just make DEI this thing out there that I'm supposed to be against, and I don't realize that DEI probably made it possible for either one of us to go to college. Like, there just is, higher education is not out there just trying to let people in. It never has been. When women gained access in the 20s, they protested, they marched, they legislated those doors down. When African Americans came in the 50s and 60s, it wasn't like higher education said, oh, wonderful, look at you guys, come on in, enjoy the beauties of higher education. No, they were stubbornly resistant to having Black students at all campuses. And the only way we won was by protest and by march and by threat of lawsuit and by actually going to court, right? So my point is diversity, equity, and inclusion are good things. When people celebrate our differences, it's wonderful. Like, I think about just the number of times we've been in social spaces. I could name them a million of them, right? I'm thinking about when we were at that conference in San Diego, and we ended up going into the convention center to do the talk. But then afterwards, I'm about to get emotional. Oh my gosh. Remember when we were at that restaurant and that woman who was dancing down the sidewalk?
Beautiful.
Full form, y'all. Black woman had headphones on. She was dancing so hard in the middle of the street. And literally everybody at the restaurant and around us was just in awe of a body in motion, a body that was moving according to her own. She had headphones on. We couldn't hear the music. Whatever it was, it had her vibing on the right, and all of us were jealous. Whatever she had, we wanted it. And guess what? I'm talking older white women wanted it. Tall Latinx men wanted it. Young Black dudes wanted it. We all wanted it. The waiters wanted it. The cook wanted it. The dogs and the cats wanted it. I'm just trying to tell you, like, that's diversity at its finest. And we ought to have moments where we come together and we realize that anyway, diversity, it matters. I think.
No, this is take two. So you're gonna go there so I can get there.
I'm just saying, it's like, I think about, like, I don't know. I sometimes when I'm in this work alone and with you and others, it's like, I realize I'm a man of faith. I'm a Christian, right? So I do believe that there are larger forces sparring and fighting in the world. And sometimes when we do this work, I get it. It's like evil is fighting good. And it's happening through what we're talking about is the administration and executive orders, right? But it's like there's a perspective, a mindset. I'm gonna borrow Dr. Lucas again, a heart set that's fighting another heart set. One that says we're all too different to be together, and one that says we need each other so much to be apart. One that says, we are better when we are pulling ourselves up by our own bootstraps, and that certain opportunities and experiences are due those who are fit for it, who have the resources to access it, but only for some, right? Some opportunities and some experiences are for a privileged few. Another perspective and heart set that says, no, it's for everybody who desires it. And some get there through this path, but then some need a different path or a different set of supports. And these two perspectives are warring, I would say, as a Christian in the heavens, but as an education and psychology professor in the earth, right? And when I realize that that's what it is, I get moved to emotion, because that little flicker of light within me that will not dare go out gets bigger and bigger when I start realizing, wait a minute, y'all. No. This is not about me versus you. This is not about right versus left. This is not about blue versus red. This is about good versus evil. This is about up versus down. And, we got to get into this and realize that the only thing, I'm quoting Martin Luther King again, that drives out darkness is light. So we got to put more light on this situation. That the only thing that drives out hate is love. So we got to love through this situation. And what I remember seeing in San Diego for a moment on a sidewalk with you was love personified, like people talking to perfect strangers about something we're observing together. Mm-hmm. That should be celebrated, not, condemned. People coming together, whether they're in a living learning community or in a Black cultural center, to share perspectives, that should be rewarded, not reprimanded. That when we can go to a campus and people who don't look anything like us can take us out to dinner, show us a good time, ask about our travels, empathize with our struggles. That's it. There's nothing more American than that. There is nothing more America than that. And to me, there's nothing more democratic than that.
That in San Diego was a very beautiful moment. Something that was unexpected. I remember us sitting outside. It was a beautiful day, looking to our left and seeing someone in their own world having a ball, dancing to the spirit of the music, to how they're feeling. And like you said, we were outside. I remember like people stopped eating
literally
to watch her dance. And I remember there was a lady that turned to us and said, "Wow, I wish I could do that."
Yeah.
Everyone was jealous. What I'm thinking right now and drawing from that experience is, I'm using your words but to make my point, which is people in the world are hurting. And to see something like that, you just wish you had it. She wasn't worried about being judged. I mean, there are many people in the street stopping to watch her.
Literally, cars stopping. Yeah.
The dog even stopped running across the street to watch what she was doing.
Yeah.
And I think that that's something that we all want it. We all want it. But there are so many forces that is telling us, no, don't do that. You're gonna be mocked, gonna be judged, you're gonna be laughed at, you're going to be excluded. But that wasn't the case.
Yeah.
Right? People were in awe.
Literally.
Even for me, I put myself out there. I was like, man, I want to put on some music and dance. You ready to go? But I think that's something that, we must carry that over into higher education, in that spirit, in that mindset that we need to celebrate people who are doing well. Celebrate the ones who receive the support and are thriving. That's what we want. That is what we want. That's what we told the students that they will experience when they come to our campuses. So, talking about, we are unwavering in our commitment. It can't just be a word. It has to be our promise to them. Yeah. That regardless of what comes our way, we will not be shaken. That when one of us, is removed from the light, we all suffer. When one of us is not at the in the room to talk about an important issue or any issue, we struggle. Yeah. Because that perspective, that experience, that opinion is very important to what we're talking about. And I think once we shift our mind to that, we will be more successful. We will truly ensure that our students are successful academically and socially, that they can go to class and explore and engage with others with different perspectives, and seek truth, not just consume information and take the quiz, take the test, do the homework assignment. Yeah. But encourage students, encourage our faculty and staff and our leaders to create these spaces for us all to thrive, to experience something that we all want. And what we want is to be happy, to to be joyful, to smell the roses,
and to belong.
I was trying to get that. I was building it up, but
everybody wants to belong. It's like, yeah, belonging just isn't. It's not a political statement. I even have said that this week multiple times at campus. I'm like, everybody wants to belong. Here it is. Belonging is a basic need and a human right. And then I follow up with, and that's not a political statement. Belonging is not a political statement. It's not a political agenda. It's not a political issue, no matter who wants to politicize it. It is a human need. Everybody wants to belong. Everybody needs spaces, sanctioned spaces to be themselves and to talk about the things that they needed to talk and experience life. And as you said earlier, to even to lay their head down in peace. And so when we ban or dismantle DEI, whether we're banning living learning communities or getting rid of certain scholarships and grants, when we dismantle DEI, we deny students, faculty, staff the right to feel seen, valued, and supported, because DEI sends a powerful message. You know, again, I've been shouting out people, so let me shout out Lori Patton Davis, who did all of the forework and incredible, rigorous research about cultural centers, especially Black cultural centers. The establishment of Black cultural centers have a historical context to it, and we're very ahistorical. And our discussion of these cultural content, we had to have that on a different episode on a different day. My point is this: the establishment of those spaces, cultural centers for all groups, sends a powerful message. You matter. You matter. Your identity matters. You belong here. We want you here so much that we have spaces for all students and even sanctioned space for you. Anti-DEI sends another powerful message. You don't matter. Your identity is a problem. Your difference, or what makes you different, is a threat. And your belonging is irrelevant or negotiable. We'll leave it to chance. Who sits with that message? Students don't, that's not sobering, that's not comforting, that's not affirming, that's not, and go to our mission statements and our vision statements. You know, we often call out the fact that lots of campuses, we won't say all the names, have signs that say you belong here. I haven't seen a single one that says you belong here, except if you are
in this amount.
Yeah, it's for everybody. So cutting DEI and cutting programs and supports that students need is cutting student success. It's cutting at our core. It is cutting at our institutional objectives and our KPIs. And it's really cutting at the very heart of what higher education is all about.
So with that, all things must come to an end. And I think we even, we went over time, but it's okay. It was a good discussion.
The same time that we were on the last episode. This one's a much richer, much more fluent kind of place. But I have one more question, because I didn't get to hear your answer to this question in the last episode because of my own technology issues. And that is, so we're going to close on a high note, but we had mentioned in the last take one that, the consequences of this debate are real. Real people are losing their jobs. Real agencies and offices are being closed. Real graduate students are not only losing financial support through federal grants to pay for their education, but as of a couple days ago, losing access to federal data that they're using to do their theses and their dissertations. Their faculty and advisors are losing funding, which is compromising the success of their career. And just so you all know that we're not talking out there about people over there or over here, just a few weeks ago, we were in travel status, and we got a phone call from someone, a group that will stay unnamed, asking if we would change the title in the abstract for a future presentation of ours and essentially remove diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I was encumbered with trying to check us into the hotel and all that kind of stuff. That I was like, listen, you got to talk to him. So I didn't get to hear it. What were your thoughts about this? I mean, how does that feel to you personally, this whole, because I don't want people to think that we're just talking about pie in the sky, not pie in the sky, but things outside of us. This is impacting us. We really literally have had to do this ourselves to adjust to this perception that somehow our presentation would be non-compliant with the current administration.
Yeah, we have an important message to share, right? So it got pushed over to me, volleyballed over to me. And, you know, just in the moment, trying to just manage the situation, get all the information I can get about, you know, what words need to be removed. Why are we removing them? And, you know, a couple other questions, just so I didn't say yes or no to what they were asking, because we had to have a conversation. But, you know, this has impacted the work, even other work that we do. I remember you were traveling and I was writing something for us. And I text you like, are we allowed to use diversity in this piece? It causes you to second guess the work, the not the work in the sense of like why you're doing it, but like the words that you're using, and if the editor or the conference or whoever else will accept it, right? But like I said earlier, I think it's very hard to not talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion when you're talking about belonging, because they're connected. It's associated. It's linked together. It will undermine. It will do a disservice to belonging if we don't talk about those things. Mm-hmm. So all that in my mind, I'm just sitting here thinking, wow. Now, one, we have to figure out how to navigate this space appropriately without, you know, doing a disservice to the work that we do and the people that we write about. Right? Come on now. Right. Yeah. We're talking about minoritized groups who already don't feel seen, heard, and valued on these campuses. And then secondly, lost my point because I went too far on the first one, but
you're doing great.
Second, I think in that moment I was feeling like we have to do more in sharing how this is impacting not only us, but other scholars, you know, chief diversity officers who have been fired, how it's impacting initiatives and programs on campus that are designed to support students who need it. These are players being benched.
Yeah.
Players who have the experiences and the knowledge and the expertise in making sure that our campuses are safe and secure and students feel accepted. So there are some out there, due to this, our political climate, that their voices are amplified while others weep. That is what I was thinking in that moment.
Yeah, I mean, that's well said. It's like so much of it, I think I got several concerns, but one of the concerns I have for all that's happening, because we don't know the end of it yet. And there are lots of lawsuits going on. There's one that just came out of Virginia where ultimately these judges in this appeals panel in the Fourth Circuit Court said that the Trump administration's 2 DEI measures can be reinstated. That doesn't mean that it's final. It just means they can be reinstated and can sort of have some force until it is ultimately decided what, and it's not so much the executive orders, it's the enforcement of those that it will likely have to go to the courts. But I'm saying that to say, so much of what's happening right now, like I said multiple times, this episode is about I think it's political theater. I think it's smoke and mirrors. I think it's doing something to create some confusion and hoping that in the confusion, and out of fear, people will stop doing things that some people don't want to be done. And it won't be because the court said it can't be done. It'll be because people were trying to avoid, as you said earlier, losing federal dollars, losing federal support that's so needed to keep their doors open, their programs running, people on the payroll. These executive orders and these federal actions, to me, they have a chilling effect. And that's what you're talking about. It's that, take two people who have been writing comfortably about these topics, and all of a sudden now we're even second guessing the words that we're using. Here's the thing. The title and the abstract can change, but in a couple of weeks when we're there live on set and on the stage, what are we going to say? And, it's kind of like, again, my mind goes here, so forgive me, but I don't know if you've ever played, I think it's called technically charades. What I think about in my mind is like these words where there's a word that you're trying to get people to say without ever saying that word. You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
So like imagine going to the doctor and the doctor's trying to treat your allergies, but he can't say the word allergies. And he's like, well, I think you're dealing with a nose problem, and your nose problem is likely triggered because of some elements. Like you're going to end up going so around that I'm worried that at the end, you won't actually get the prescription you need to treat your condition. Applied to higher education, if we're going to ban all of these words and ban books and ban programs and services, we're ultimately trying to treat a condition. That is, first of all, we're trying to foster a condition that is student success. And we're trying to treat some different conditions, pre-existing conditions. Some students don't have access. Some students don't have resources. Some students are coming on a spectrum of abilities, but we can't even sort of direct our support and our programs and our attention to those because we're restricting and tying people's hands with these federal actions. And you're exactly right. I do find myself sometimes swirling in my mind. I'm talking live and on stage, on set, thinking, what am I about to say? And where am I? And what are the state laws? And what's going to be permissible and not permissible. And I think that's the reality. That's here's another phrase we've used a lot in this country. Here's our new normal. Our new normal is that we're now in this space. But listen, friends, family, colleagues, at the end of the day, we know that the research is abundantly clear. DEI isn't about politics. It's about people. It's about making sure that every single person, no matter who they are, where they're from, who they're born to, the circumstances they're born into, who their mama is, who their daddy is, what school they have access to, what their abilities are, that they feel celebrated, respected, safe, and secure. That they feel like they belong. That they have a fair shot at being successful. And we know that, progress isn't always easy, never has been, never will be, but it's necessary. So that's why we come to this episode each week, bringing these sort of insights and perspectives, but also ending on committing and calling you and ourselves to do good work. So let's stay committed, regardless of what the news channels tell us. Let's stay committed to building spaces where everyone feels seen and valued and supported, because this is what we know, that when we create room for everyone to thrive, to shine, to smile, we all rise together. That when we create room for everyone to do their work, together, we can do good work. So until next time, signing out, T Rizzy with J Squared. Y'all, don't be afraid to do something, but if you're going to do something good out there. Do good work.
Thank you for tuning in to Do Good Work Podcast. We hope you found today's conversation informative, uplifting, and insightful. Don't forget to like and share this episode with your networks. Follow us on social media at Do Good Work on X, formerly Twitter, for real-time updates, behind-the-scenes content, and so much more. Until next time, friends, don't be afraid to do something, but do something good. Do good work.